One of the most difficult parts of having a creative life is uncertainty. If you created your job, if you create for a living or are trying to, if you're an artist or creative in general, you have a lot of different passions, and maybe your career path strays away from the traditional 9-to-5, or maybe you're wanting it to. Dealing with uncertainty can be really tough because we always get prompted by our brain to ask this question: what if it doesn't work? I had a coaching client once that asked this question, and a lot of people do. A lot of people want to buy a process that works and outsource that so they just can blame the process if it doesn't work and not have to go through the mental and emotional kind of hardship that goes into creating your own process and figuring it out no matter what. This happens in the flute world all the time. I'm Chelsea. I'm a mindset coach for musicians. I also play the flute. I'm a professional flutist and flute teacher. So I sort of mix all of these things together because I think we don't talk enough about the human experience of being a musician, and especially in classical music, which is where I'm from. I say where I'm from because both of my parents were also classical musicians. So literally, yeah, that's where I'm from. So back to the question, what if it doesn't work? I hear this a lot when preparing for auditions. I'll have clients preparing for orchestral auditions, graduate school auditions, things like that. They say, what if it doesn't work? Well, what does it look like if it does work? How will you know if it does work? Usually you have to do the thing. You have to do the audition. You have to try the thing. And you won't know if it works until after. It could be I played exactly how I intended, or I got into that school, or I finally achieved that goal that I wanted to. So we can't know if it'll work until after we do it, right? So why are we wasting so much time and energy questioning if it will work or not? Now, I'm not saying to not question your process. Obviously do that. But I'm talking about these rhetorical questions, these ruminating questions, these what if questions, like what if it doesn't work? What if I don't get in? What if this doesn't work? What if I'm wasting my time? Those take and suck mental energy from you that could be put toward figuring out whatever it is you need to figure out. And along these lines, we also tend to question whether things are possible. We ask ourselves, well, can I even do this? Is this even gonna work? Like, how do I know if this is the right process? Like, am I even able to actually win an audition like this? When we have those questions that ruminate to no end and send us into like 1,000 different mental tornadoes, all of those take up time and energy and space in our mind that could be put to better use. But how do we know if it's going to work? We choose to know. This rubs people the wrong way sometimes when I say this, because how can you just choose to know? We often choose to know in the negative. You've probably thought, oh, this isn't gonna go well, and you really believe it. That's exactly the same as saying, this is gonna go really well, and actually believing it. As humans, we have a negativity bias. It's always going to be easier to think negatively than it is to think positively. That's just what it is. So we have to decide on purpose and practice knowing on purpose that it's going to work. The amount you go all in is directly related to the amount that you believe something is possible or worth doing. I'm going to say it again. The amount that you go all in, the amount of measures you take, the effort, the energy, all of that, the amount of that you can put into something is directly related to how possible and worth it you think it is. If you say, I'm doing this no matter what, I'm figuring this out no matter what, and if I didn't figure it out today, then I'm gonna try something different tomorrow, and I'm gonna try something different the next day, and I'm going to get it, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. That is knowing. And choosing to think that in little tiny moments is how you decide to know. It's uncomfortable to think that way sometimes. It's uncomfortable. A lot of times we want to Google the next best way to do something, right? We want to look to other people's methods and processes for answers. And you can draw inspiration from that. But what I think we completely undervalue is our own instinct. What works for us, not what works for other people, because they're not us. And it is harder to do that. And no one sells you that because it's not profitable. People tell you, oh, here's my foolproof 10-step process to sell your online course. It's like, okay, that did maybe work for them. Is it going to work for you? And at the first sign of it not working, are you going to turn back to them and then get all of the things you need to know from them? And then when you're on your own, what do? Do you just keep following that process? And then what happens when the world changes and that process doesn't work anymore? What have you learned about yourself? And I think about this in terms of practicing music as well. I know I'm going to get that passage learned. I'm going to feel comfortable with it by the time I get on stage. I'm going to do everything I know how to do that feels comfortable in my body to do, to play the flute, because that's what I do, I play the flute. And I am going to make sure that I feel comfortable on the day. I'm going to make sure that I am in integrity with myself with that, and I know it's going to happen. Do you believe me? I believe me. That is a completely different mental state. I'm not left questioning, what if it doesn't work? I heard this quote earlier this week, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Run toward what you do want, not away from what you don't want. Run toward what you do want, which is figuring it out, not away from what you don't want, which is, oh my gosh, what happens if I can't do it? Am I wasting my time? I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to fail. We don't want to run away from failure. We want to run toward a goal. And those things can be different, because when you're running away from something you don't want, you don't really care where you're going. You just want to get away from that thing. And that looks like a really haphazard process, as opposed to, this is what I'm figuring out. Let's go. So let's take an example. If you have an audition coming up, maybe it's a professional orchestral audition. How do you know if your process is right? How do you know? You can't know. And that's uncomfortable. That will always be uncomfortable until you decide that whatever you do, you can't do it wrong. You can just do it or not do it. That takes all of the questioning and rumination out of it. You get back so much more mental clarity and energy. You won't know if something will work unless you do it and you see for yourself. You can take the opinions of very trusted people, but I think the way the world is going is we just scroll through endless opinions and we think, oh yeah, I'm going to apply this, and then we just forget most of it and never do anything, and then we feel terrible because we've been on TikTok for 2 hours. So instead of saying, I hope this works, which will absolutely never make you feel secure, think, I'm figuring this out no matter what. I am figuring this out no matter what. That is going to be really different. Then your brain will be like, let's go figure this out. Let's go toward the thing. Not, I hope this works. I feel tension and anxiety in my body just sitting here saying that. A couple more thoughts to try on for you, in addition to I'm figuring this out no matter what, is whatever I do is the right move because I'm the one left standing. Like if you have an audition, whatever I do is the right move. I'm figuring it out, and I can only do that correctly because I'm gonna be the one in the finals. I'm just the kind of person who finds themselves in the finals all the time. It's just kind of crazy how it happens. Like sometimes I'm like not even expecting it. Like I don't even prepare like I really feel like I should have, or maybe I didn't have enough time, but I always kind of just like make the finals anyway. It's so crazy. Start thinking that way. Why not? And if you want a video on self-concept and how to start thinking that way, I have it linked in the description down below. Another thought that you can think and try on and see if it fits. I'm the one who makes the process work. It isn't the process itself. I'm the one that makes this process work. The process doesn't actually matter. I work the process doesn't work me. That's crazy empowering because you are the one that does actually make that process work. There are so many flutists who all play from this exercise book, this like scale passage book called Tafanel and Gobert. And every flutist plays it. Every flutist knows it. It's like a Bible. Why isn't everyone amazing? It's not the book that makes the flutist amazing. It's what you do with the process. It's not Riker exercises or Tafanel and Gobert. These references are very niche, obviously. I'm a flute player, but it isn't the exercises themselves that make you an amazing flutist. It's you and your thought process behind the process. It's what you think they will do for you. It's your questioning of things. It's your addition to this that will make you an amazing flutist or musician or whatever you do. Now, we can sometimes question this as, do I have enough time and am I wasting time? If you're in the middle of a practice session and you've gone 10 minutes and you think, am I wasting time? Oh gosh, am I doing enough? Well, if you want to seriously answer that question, you can. That would actually be very useful. Am I wasting time? Am I doing things that I know more than things that I don't know? But if you're in the weeds of it and you're getting curious, well, first of all, you probably won't question that process. So getting curious is amazing for any process. But am I wasting time is never a useful thought, because it questions the process instead of saying, how could I go deeper into this? What didn't work before? Get curious. What can I learn in 5 minutes? Those are all so much better questions to ask. What if it doesn't work? Is pumping the brakes on your progress. It is trying to press the brake and the gas at the same time. Let go of that brake. Release it. Release the tension of not knowing. You never know, which is both good and bad. It is actually neither of those things unless we have a thought that it is one of those things. But when you do things fully, you commit to them fully, you're all in. Then you're able to experience and see what is working and what isn't working, because you know and you've decided that you're going to get the end result no matter what. And if this didn't work, it's just one way to not do the thing you want to do. And that is so important, because then you know, I am actually wasting time if I do that. But you can't get there unless you go all in and commit to it. So either get comfortable with uncertainty or choose to know. Choose to know that it's going to work. We do this all the time in the negative. Think, what if it doesn't work? This isn't going to work. My gosh, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, we have no problem believing it's not going to work. So why do we have such resistance to believing it does? I like to zoom out that far and know that functionally, predicting the future negatively is exactly the same as predicting the future positively. It's just not our natural instinct, and it's much less socially acceptable to predict the future positively. Weirdly enough, misery loves company, I guess. If you start thinking, this is working, in the face of anything, it could be that you sound worse today in your practice room than you did the day before. You're like, oh, this is part of it. This is working. This always happens. It always seems like I'm getting worse just before I'm getting better. Is that true? Doesn't have to be. Tell yourself that. You get to decide what everything means. This is working no matter what. You will save so much time and energy that way. Let me know if you can relate to this, if you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.